And now it's time for Madison's Mad Facts with your host, Madison Standish.
Hey, everybody! So, this is a little supplemental segment I'm calling Madison's Mad Facts. Because the coolest part of being in these old-timey radio shows is learning about how stuff really was back in the old-timey days. So this month, we premiered an episode of Let George Do It, where I disguise myself as a showgirl and go undercover in a nightclub. If you haven't heard it yet, dude, it's totes amaze. So for this Madison's Mad Facts, I'm going to talk to Stepy Kamei, who played Chicky Larson, one of the showgirls in our episode of Let George Do It, and talk to her about what it was like being a showgirl back in the 1940s. Hey, Stepy, sup?
Hey, Madison, how's it going? And as Chicky would say, hi, doll, how are you?
I'm doing way better now that I'm out of that costume. Totes allergic to feathers. Okay, first question. Most of us in modern day, when we hear showgirls, we think about Vegas, right? Or the Elizabeth Berkley movie if we want some old school 90s camp. But Vegas was barely a thing in the 40s. So where did you find showgirls?
So, in the 1940s, showgirls were found in nightclubs all across the country. And at that time, nightclubs were the hot spots in town. There was jazz music and those big bands with the full orchestras. And with the bands came the showgirls. And these girls, gave a bit of glitz and glamour to the music. They wore skin-revealing clothing and sequins and feathers, but it was so much more tame than what we think of today. It was actually their dance numbers that were the huge draw for crowds. That's what helped the nightclubs with attendance.
So clubbing back then was with live music and shows and stuff.
The better the nightclub, the better the show. Nightclubs were actually very class divided. There were the high-end hotels in the large cities like New York, LA, and Chicago. And these hotels hosted the best nightclubs, the ones that were frequented by the rich and famous. There were also middle-class level and low-end nightclubs, basically appealing to all walks of life.
So if I'm a showgirl, where do I want to work?
Well, as Chicky would tell you, the nicer clubs are the most desirable to perform at as a showgirl. It's better pay, it's a higher caliber show, and it's a great way to mingle with the rich, powerful, famous,
Totes get that. Okay, so in our episode, the nightclub was run by two gangsters. Is that true? Did the mob run nightclubs?
Many nightclubs of the era were fully run by the mob. I know, crazy, but true. Gangsters loved this atmosphere because it was a great way to hide their illegal activities, you know what I'm saying? And their enforcers would also be the bouncers, and they could pull guns on unruly guests if they felt like it. So what this also meant for a showgirl is that if they became the girlfriend of the gangster who owned the nightclub, that would jump them ahead of the other girls in the chorus. Didn't matter if she was talented or not.
Why would anyone want to be a showgirl? Is it a good career move? Should I put this on my resume?
Showgirls were dancers first and foremost. That was their trade. These were often the girls reaching for a future in show business. Like in today's society, dancers hope to make the chorus of a Broadway show and, leap from obscurity to leading lady. And at the time, there's the huge MGM musicals and Hollywood giving contracts to chorus girls. So working in a nightclub was definitely a stepping stone. But again, it might be determined by which club the showgirl worked in.
Does that mean you wouldn't want to work at a gangster-run nightclub?
Even if it were a gangster-owned club, it's still a great job for a dancer. This is unlike the burlesque houses, which were the precursors to what we know as strip clubs. If a girl worked in a burlesque house, she was branded with a pretty negative stigma that would prevent her from ever moving on to more legitimate showgirl work.
Well, thank you, Stepy, so much for filling us in about showgirls from the 1940s. You were amazing as Chicky, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Madison. And hey, try not to get framed for murder anymore, okay? Sound good?
I can make no such promises. Thanks, you guys, for listening to our little bonus feature, Madison's Mad Facts. And get ready for new episodes of Madison on the Air to premiere the first of every month.